Chapter 18 of Jewish Children by Shalom Aleichem. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Jewish Children, Yudishe Kinder by Shalom Aleichem, translated by Hannah Berman, and read by Adrian Pretzelis. Chapter 18 On the Fiddle. Children, I will now play for you a little tune on the fiddle. I imagine there is nothing better and finer in the world than to be able to play on the fiddle. What? Perhaps it is not so. I don't know how it is with you, but I know that since I first reached the age of understanding, my heart longed for a fiddle. I loved my life as any musician whatever, no matter what instrument he played. If there was a wedding anywhere in town, I was the first to run forward and welcome the musicians. I loved to steal over to the bass and draw my fingers across one of the strings. Boom! And I flew away. For this same boom, I once got it hot from Beryl Bass. Beryl Bass, a cross Jew with a flattened out nose and a sharp glance, pretended not to see me stealing over to the bass, and when I stretched out my hand to the thick string, he caught hold of me by the ear and dragged me respectfully to the door. "Here, scamp, kiss the mezuzah." But this was not of much consequence to me. It did not make me go a single step from the musicians. I loved them all, from Shaike, the little fiddler with his beautiful black beard and his thin white hands, to Getza, the drummer with his beautiful hump, and, if you will forgive me for mentioning it, the big bald patches behind his ears. Not once, but many times did I lie hidden under a bench, listening to the musicians playing, though I was frequently found and sent home. And from there, from under the bench, I could see how Shaike's thin little fingers danced about over the strings, and I listened to the sweet sounds which he drew so cleverly out of the little fiddle. Afterwards I used to go about in a state of great inward excitement for many days on end, and Shaike and his little fiddle stood before my eyes always. At night I saw him in my dreams, and in the daytime I saw him in reality, and he never left my imagination. When no one was looking, I used to imagine that I was Shaike, the little fiddler. I used to curve my left arm and move my fingers and draw out my right hand as if I were drawing the bow across the strings. At the same time I threw my head to one side, closing my eyes a little, just as Shaike did, not a hair different. My Rebbe, not a Leib, once caught me doing this. It happened in the middle of a lesson. I was moving my arms about, throwing my head to one side and blinking my eyes, and he gave me a sound box on the ears. "What a scamp can do! We are teaching him his lessons and he makes faces and catches flies." I promised myself that, even if the world turned upside down, I must have a little fiddle, let it cost me what it would. But what was I to make a fiddle out of? Cedar wood, of course. But it's easy to talk of cedar wood. How was I to come by it when, as everybody knows, the cedar tree grows only in Palestine? But what does the Lord do for me? He goes and puts a certain thought into my head. In our house there was an old sofa. This sofa was left to us as a legacy by our grandfather Reb Anshel, and my two uncles fought over this sofa with my father, peace be unto him. My uncle Benny argued that since he was my grandfather's oldest son, the sofa belonged to him, and my uncle Sender argued that he was the youngest son and that the sofa belonged to him, and my father, peace be unto him, argued that although he was no more than a son-in-law to my grandfather and had no personal claim on the sofa, still, since his wife, my mother that is, was the only daughter of Reb Anshel, the sofa belonged by right to her. But all this happened long ago, and as the sofa has remained in our house, this was a proof that it was our sofa. And our two aunts interfered, my Aunt Etka and my Aunt Zalatka. They began to invent scandals and to carry tales from one house to another. It was sofa and nothing else but sofa. The town rocked all because of the sofa. However, to make a long story short, the sofa remained our sofa. This same sofa was an ordinary wooden sofa covered with a thin veneer. This veneer had come unloosened in many places and was split up. It had now a number of small mounds, and the upper layer of the veneer, which had come unloosened, was of the real cedar wood, the wood of which fiddles are made. At least, that is what I was told at school. The sofa had one fault, and this fault was, in reality, a good quality. For instance, when one sat on it, one could not get up off of it. Again, because it stood a little on the slant, one side was higher than the other, and in the middle there was a hole. And the good thing about our sofa was that no one wanted to sit on it, and it was put away in a corner to one side in compulsory retirement. It was on this sofa that I had cast my eyes to make a fiddle out of the cedar wood veneer. A bow I had already provided myself with long ago. I had a comrade, Shimel Yudel, the car owner's son. He promised me a few hairs from the tail of his father's horse, and resin to smear the bow with which I had myself. I hated to depend on miracles. I got the resin from another friend of mine, Meyer Lippe, Sarah's son, for a bit of steel from my mother's old crinoline which had been knocking about in the attic. Out of this steel Meyer Lippe afterwards made himself a little knife. It is true, when I saw the knife I wanted him to change back again with me, but he would not have it. He began to shout, "A clever fellow that! What do you say to him? I worked hard for 3 whole nights. I sharpened and cut all my fingers sharpening, and now he comes and wants me to change back again with him." "Just look at him," I cried, "and then it won't be. A great bargain for you, a little bit of steel. Isn't there enough steel knocking about in our attic? There will be enough for our children and our children's children even." Anyway, I had everything that was necessary, and there only remained one thing for me to do: to scale off the cedar wood from the sofa. For this work I selected a very good time, when my mother was in the shop and my father had gone off to lie down and have a nap after dinner. I hid myself in a corner, and with a big nail I betook myself to my work in good earnest. My father heard in his sleep how someone was scraping something. At first he thought there were mice in the house, and he began to make a noise from his bedroom to drive them off. "Kush, kush!" I was like dead. My father turned over on the other side, and when I heard him snoring again, I went back to my work. Suddenly I looked about me. My father was standing and staring at me with curious eyes. It appeared that he could not on any account understand what was going on, what I was doing. Then, when he saw the spoiled and torn sofa, he realized what I had done. He pulled me out of the corner by the ear and beat me so much that I fainted away and had to be revived. I actually had to have cold water thrown over me to bring me to life again. "The Lord be with you! What have you done to the child?" my mother wailed, the tears starting to her eyes. Your beautiful son, he will drive me into my